Hey everybody, I hope you are well, and I hope maybe you're able to get outside a little bit today. I'm sneaking outside. My car is actually getting serviced today, so I'm using that as an excuse to get some stuff done maybe that I can do outside. I wanted to talk about two things in particular today. One is we had a bond commission meeting earlier this week at which two projects specifically will go to the northwest corner, and then a couple of others that got approved I think will have a big impact on us. Which I think is an opportunity to talk a little bit about, to use those projects as an example about what bond funding means and how those projects end up on that agenda. So the two projects that we're going directly to this area, one is for the Kent Library and one is for an affordable housing development in Salisbury. And they ended up in very different ways. So take the Kent Library one, for instance. That is coming through a state agency, the State Library. And so my role in it, for example, I met with the library early about what they were trying to do, made sure they got connected to the grant programs that are specifically designed to fund that kind of project, and then to just keep bugging the State Library and others to make sure that that project got priority and got attention, that all the hoops were being jumped through, and that it landed on a bond commission agenda so that we could approve it, which we did earlier this week. So although I played a role, really the big work there was really by the Kent Library itself, which had to go meet a set of criteria, which they did with flying colors, and so they were given a $2 million grant at the Bond Commission meeting yesterday. The other one is a grant for Salisbury's Holly Place affordable housing development, and that one is a little bit different. We do have housing that goes through the state agency, the Department of Housing, and we did have a program that was on the Bond Commission agenda that will provide $40 million to a program called Time to Own, which is focused on first-time home buyers, helping them with up to $25,000 or up to 25% of the housing cost, whichever is less. To help them, buy a home for the first time. So eligible homeowners can get that forgiven over 10 years if they meet certain criteria along the way. So that's a project that goes through the Department of Housing. This one in particular goes through something called the Urban Act. And the Urban Act is a sort of a catch-all that we as legislators use for all kinds of projects, to fund all kinds of projects throughout the state. And the way those projects get decided, what lands on the Bond Commission agenda, is trying to be fair, trying to look across the state, trying to look at, who needs, investment in their community, all kinds of things like that. So a huge number of criteria, and we try to spread it out geographically. I say we because I do chair the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee, so I'm a part of that process, which helps make me make sure that my projects get priority, but also that they fulfill the criteria, which is to say they're not for operating expenses, they are for investment. They have to be ready to go. And also, at the end of the day, what actually shows up on the Bond Commission agenda is completely up to the governor. We, the legislature, can create a list of projects that we think are important, and then we have to convince the governor, which is to say the Bond Commission, on which I sit, but is controlled by the governor, that they meet his criteria. And he's very focused usually on making sure that there's private investment as well as public investment, that the project is really ready to go. So we're not holding up funding for years and prioritizing something that's not ready when something else that is ready has to wait. And that it's going to invest in a community and have long-term impact. So the Salisbury Housing one, that was a project that I've had a lot of conversations with the Department of Housing. We have a lot of challenges out here getting our housing projects to meet the state's general needs for costs, in part because our scale is by definition smaller than some of the bigger projects in other parts of the state because we're small towns, and because our land costs are high, and we're trying to comply with the other regulations, which we can probably work on to make a little less onerous in the future. But so that project was one that I put on the Bond Commission agenda, and it got approved on Tuesday, so I'm very happy to have those two. The other project that I just wanted to mention that was on the Bond Commission agenda has to do with solid waste. So we put $10 million in the bond bill that we passed in the legislature last year for that, and the governor by putting it on the bond commission agenda, that means that money is ready to start moving, and I hope it will help organics diversion programs and also looking for new technology to help with solid waste in general. So then I also wanted to note that early voting has begun, and I've been talking to a lot of people, including a lot of people working at the polls, our town clerks, our town registrars, about the process. It's new. So the first thing I wanted to say is, if you go in and early vote, make sure you thank the people who are trying to work this out. I have had a lot of conversations over the last couple of days because it's different in each of the towns, just as they work out how to make it work for voters, for security, for all the important things about securing an election. And they're doing an amazing job, and it's important to really make sure you thank them. I think some of the lines first day were a little bit long as people worked out the kinks. It is a little bit different, you will find, than voting on election day, because your vote's not going to be counted if you're voting early until election day, which means your vote has to be secured by being put in an envelope. So just noting again to make sure you check in with the people who are checking you in and check you out on the way out. You want to make sure your vote gets counted, and you want to make sure that you do it in all the appropriate ways to make sure it's secure and ends up in the right place. So thanks to all of you who have early voted, and thanks really to all the people who are making it work. So have a great day. See you soon.